Hello, welcome to Podcast vs. Play, episode 214. I'm one of your hosts, Cal, and as always, I'm joined by a man who thinks Will Smith handled things well considering he was stuck between a rock and a hard face.
The Oscars, everyone.
The Oscars, indeed.
Everyone's interested now.
Tony Bloody Dan. That build up.
Hello.
You alright?
Yeah, I'm good. How you doing?
What's on your t-shirt?
Sorry?
What's on your t-shirt?
Oh, it's the beer hunter.
Ah, I could just see Just Call Me. That's all I could see.
Oh yeah, just call me the beer hunter.
Ooh.
And then there's like a target on, which I intend to wear whenever I'm being threatened by an assassin, so that they can just.
The irony being, you don't like beer.
I really don't. Well, that's why I'd be a great beer assassin, because I'd be like, I hate beer. I want to take it out. Take it all out.
Shake it all about. I bought some beer the Saturday before Mother's Day because I was like, why should mothers get all the treats? So I bought myself some beer, and it was cunningly just called beer, so I couldn't even tell you who made it. But right. it was citrus and vodka flavour.
Vodka flavoured beer.
So I bought it out of curiosity because vodka doesn't really taste of anything.
It tastes of like glue and ethanol.
But I'll honestly say one of the most refreshing beers I've ever had. So much so.
Well, it's probably the citrus side of it. I'd say get a bottle of Tango before a.
Well,
beer
no, because like quite a few beers have tried. Like I remember Foster's Twist was one. Like I hate Foster's because it's literally just piss, but. They did a citrus twist, which was like had like a hint of lemon to it. And it was okay. It wasn't great, but it was okay. But this is just like a real nice version of that. And it was like $1.99 for 3 bottles. So I'm gonna get some more because it was delicious. And it's a nice change of pace from Guinness because that's all I predominantly drink.
It just sounds like it's like Tenant Super. It's like, you know, if you're homeless and have a really shit day, you'd have a couple of these. You got beer and vodka in a can. Delicious.
I don't think there's actual vodka
it's one
in
5
it.
A day.
Yeah, it's got lemons.
Yeah, exactly.
Lemons and hops. But this is not a beer podcast, Dan. Even though your t-shirt would allow people to think different, and the fact that we've started this entire podcast talking about beer, it's not. It's just not what it is, Dan. I wish it was. We should do a drunk podcast one day.
You want to get to the fucking point, please, then?
The point being, Moonknight started.
Thank you.
And I'm prepared to go out on a whim, and based off one single episode, I think it's probably one of the best Disney Plus shows.
I think it's pretty banging so far. Like they've done a great little setup. I know who everyone is for the most part. I know that. I would keep on thinking it's Kevin Bacon. It
looks just like Kevin Bacon, doesn't it?
It's the other dude. It's the Glenn Close, Meryl Streep. It's like it's not Kevin Bacon. It's the other guy that makes you think of Kevin Bacon, and I still can't remember his name.
Can't think of his name now. It's irrelevant.
But either way, yeah. Well, not to him. It's not.
No.
I mean,
I don't mean like
that. But like, you know, he's this sort of like, you know, ancient Egyptian like death healer kind of thing. I don't know what the hell's going on with any of that, but it's significantly kind of like cultish enough to be like, okay, I get why you know you'd want to live in this place. If you get proved to be good, then you know you get not dead, I guess.
Do you think
it's not like they get
knows
like
what they've done,
riches or whatever?
So like the old bird.
It could just be it could be completely arbitrary. It could just be like, I don't like you, or you're not my perfect person.
That's what I mean, because obviously they don't go into too much detail, and he isn't a specific character. So the character who he is a very, 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 very minor Moon Knight villain, but he hasn't got these powers and stuff.
So it just bumped him up a bit.
Yeah, well, supposedly what I read, because Zoe said like what are his powers, I was like, pretty sure he doesn't have any per se. So I googled it, and it seems as though, and I didn't read too much just in case there were spoilers, but they basically merged 3 characters into this one character, which I think is interesting because now we can't go, oh, I reckon this is going to happen or this because
yeah, because it could be any of those story beats that kind of plays into it. it kind of got me. It got me thinking, like, like it'd be like a mummy villain. I mean, again, it's sort of Egypt themed, I know, but they're sort of like imbued with the power of a dick of a god, and they think that they're the good guys, sort of thing. But actually, they're probably not.
Yeah.
But I thought his setup, again, it's not. We haven't got the sort of like, oh, I get why he is sort of thing, because we don't know anything about him other than just like that he doesn't seem to be particularly malicious.
Yeah, he wants to
like,
rid the world of evil, but
yeah, he thinks he's a prophet or a messiah of some kind, or a second coming.
Alan.
What?
Alan. A second coming. Alan.
Oh, right,
another Alan coming. He can't be all the celebrities.
But I think with like Oscar Isaacs, I think his English accent is. Oh, it's so close to just being like, to the point where I was like, he's not British, is he? I had a little giggle. I was like, no, of course he's not. But it was close enough to just be like, I think that if you weren't a native English speaker or you weren't particularly familiar with it, I reckon that would just fly straight past you. I don't even think you'd clock it.
I think it does help that everybody talks the same in it. So like
a normal person in London does.
Yeah, so everyone's very howdy, pushing passion, jogging boat. Like they've got that traditional British twang, even though not many people from London talk like that. Because I don't think it was a bad. No, and I'm
absolutely not saying that it's. Yeah, it's not a Keanu Reeves kind of like trying desperately to do everything he can sound British. Like, again, that's why I'm just sort of like, it was just. If I have to go, is that person actually British? That, as far as I'm concerned, is good enough. Like, and I was watching a little interview that he was doing where he was talking about his accent. And he said that, when he was looking at, like, people because, he says, like, there's a lot of British people that are coming to America and doing very good American accents, presumably, like, a lot of the MCU guys, they're all English and they're pretty much nailing it. Yeah. At least, but again, as far as we're concerned, they're doing pretty spot on American accents. Right. But if you're from that part of America, maybe you're just sort of like, maybe it was just close, but it wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
But again, what do you expect? He can't absolutely fucking smash it. But he was saying that he was looking at Russell Brand.
You could definitely see
that. Russell Kane, which I thought was that's quite a an obscure kind of comedian.
Yeah.
And then Carl Pilkington. I was like, it just proper broke my image of just like a famous actor of just like, oh, he knows who Carl Pilkington is.
But that's the thing. Like Russell Brand is like he's obviously famous in America as well as famous over here. Russell Kane, I wouldn't say he's particularly. I wouldn't assume he's famous in America because he's very much more of your Mock the Week, 8 out of 10 Cats kind of personality. But Carl Pilkington, I mean, Ricky Gervais, yeah, fair enough, because again, famous over in America. But who in America knows who Carl Pilkington is?
Maybe it's just an idiot abroad. Maybe that just went like huge globally, and I don't think that was
a big global breakout.
I don't know. I mean, because you're going to know, if you're American, you're going to know him from Idiot Abroad, and maybe some of the Ricky Gervais stand-up stuff where he's like on DVD extras and things.
The Ricky Gervais podcast was actually, obviously, it was an incredibly popular podcast for, I'd say, for years. I think it still is, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I still listen to it. I mean, it's all on YouTube now, obviously.
I do like when I go on the PvP YouTube to like upload a video or something. I'd say 90% of the time Ricky Gervais podcast is either in like the suggested or like the recently watched thing.
Yeah.
So obviously you watch it an awful lot.
It's funny, man.
Yeah, it's great. Very, very good.
But I think like it's probably as good as I would have expected, like someone to not do like prim and proper British.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't go down that route. Like,
just having like a sort of fairly bog standard London kind of accent is really quite interesting.
I can't see the Pilkington in it. I can see the Russell Brand. Like I can hear the Russell Brand, but
No, I think he was saying Pilkington for the humour, like he's being funny without knowing he's being funny.
Yeah, like a bit deadpan and dopey.
Yeah, bit dopey, yeah. But I love the kind of like he just blacks out, and then all of a sudden everyone's just battered on the floor, and it's just like, what in the hell is going on? And they're clearly building up to, like, you know, when he's this other ego, this Mark. He's just got his normal accent back. So I was like, okay, well then there's a bit of everything for everyone there. But the CG at times was a little, I was just like, again, it's just sort of just misses the mark just a teensy bit. But honestly, other than those two things, I really don't have any issues with this at all. I think it's absolutely fucking solid.
I didn't have an issue with the CGI. I think it was smart having the Egyptian dog monster thing.
That looked fine. I don't
the dark
mean
and
that.
stuff. You mean like the car chases and stuff?
It was the truck, yeah. Where it was a bit sort of like jerky, and but I was like, this is the equivalent of like a TV show budget, so it's not going to be huge explosions and whatever, and it looks absolutely fine.
I wouldn't assume this has got 100%. The same budget as like Loki or anything like that. This is kind of something that they kind of take a bit of a punt on it. Maybe it's successful, maybe it's not. I don't
know, man. This has been marketed out the arse. I think they're taking more than a punt on it.
Purely down. I mean, like, he's not signed on for another series of it or anything up to now.
After this is done,
I reckon he will, purely based off. It has been review bombed though, saying that.
What?
So there's a bit when they reference. So you know when Kevin Bacon's saying, obviously, if we'd had access to this power, we could have prevented this. We could have prevented this. We could have prevented this. There's one of the things I can't remember what it is, and the people who are from that country who still don't not admit, but they're like, it's. I'm proper butchering it because I can't remember what it was now. It wasn't the Holocaust or anything like that, because I think it was in Turkey. I think the actual real life incident happened, but something like that kind of genocidal stuff, and they're still of the impression that that's not the way they want it to be perceived, and they disagree with history basically. But because of it being referenced in that, they review bombed it, and Oscar Isaac could basically come out on, I don't know if it was on Instagram or TikTok or some social thing, where he said, like, basically, if you do like the show, could you leave a positive review to counter
even it out
all these bollocks reviews. But I loved it. I think it was very interesting. Massively annoyed there was only one episode, because it ends just as like stuff's kicking off. By the way, spoilers for episode 1 of Moonknight, but it's been out nearly a week. So
I don't think, other than what's already been in the trailers, I don't think there is anything to spoil, really.
That was one of the best things.
It's like, oh my god, Daredevil was in it.
Yeah, spoilers. No. But I think that's one of the best things, that the trailer was pretty much the first episode, minus a couple of scenes.
You know, it's Kevin Bacon, it's Oscar Isaacs, there's Moonknight stuff going on, like ancient Egyptian stuff going on, and that's all you need to know. And that's all they set him up as. It's like, he works in a gift shop, but clearly he's like an ancient Egypt nerd, and he's got some, like, but that's the thing, like, has he developed some kind of, like, you know, Fight Club alter ego, you know, Tyler Durden thing, or is he the creation of Tyler Durden? Do you know what I mean? Like, so is cool Mark Oscar Isaac's American? Is he the real person of that body who's made a deal with like some ancient Egyptian whatever?
To my knowledge, this guy, it's always been Mark Spector, and the other identities are like, in this it seems to be he's Stephen.
But that's the thing. Have they just focused on it because that's his current persona?
Potentially,
so,
yeah.
You know, in 2 or 3 episodes, maybe Stephen out the window, and we don't come back to Stephen anymore. And you know, it's not just Mark; it's Phil as well now, and Phil's a contractor.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like,
there is a few. Like, there's a billionaire personality. There's like Mark Spector, who is like, obviously he's trained in hand to hand and everything else, yada yada yada. But there's
well, it seems that he's more superhuman in terms of strength in combat, rather than just you know, he's just someone who's very good at kung fu. I
mean, that's down to the power of the moon god, though, isn't it? Not
for sure. Yeah. But then this opens up other avenues, though, doesn't it? So potentially, you know, maybe someone from some of the other Disney Plus shows, maybe that's someone who could come through. Maybe someone like a Blade, maybe someone like the Black Knight. You know, that was obviously teased the Eternal. I don't know. I mean, the Punisher and Moonknight. I mean, on paper, yeah, they're just very nasty people walking around.
Thinking more of like now your Netflix shows are on there. Like,
and now they kind of almost exist in the real MCU.
Daredevil does at least,
but he doesn't go. Oh, I'm a lawyer, and also I worked with the Defenders, and here's a list of all the other people from the Netflix shows that now count.
This is basically like going to a party, an exclusive party. And then Matt goes in, and then Jessica and everyone else is there. Like, Matt, it's us. They're like, oh no, I've never seen these guys before in my life.
Well, if any of the other ones would come through, who do you reckon it would be?
Jessica Jones and a Punisher. That's it.
I'd be okay with that. I think I'd be all right with Jess and Frank.
We don't need Iron Fist because we've got Shang-Chi.
No. I would love to see Shang-Chi fight Iron Fist that we got.
Yeah,
and he just gets laid out instantly.
I mean, but we spoke about it on I don't know if it was a podcast or a spoiler cast, but Iron Fist gets absolutely owned by Daredevil, who hasn't got superhuman abilities. He's got heightened senses, but everything else is just good combat. And if that Iron Fist went up against Shang-Chi, he would literally murder him.
Yeah.
Which is why I want to see it down. Make it happen.
Kind of, but that you recreate Iron Fist, you rebuild him, you reboot him, you do. I mean, you still get the same guy if you want to, but but that's the thing. It's not the actor's fault that he was just sort of thrown into a role without much training and.
We'd all do the same. Somebody said, "Do you want to be in a Netflix Marvel show?" You just go, "Yeah."
Yeah, I'm sure the guys who were in the Inhumans felt exactly the same way.
Yeah.
They didn't realise that they were just going to get absolutely boned.
George Clooney did it with Batman. He openly said, like, he read the scripts, he knew it was bad, but when are we going to get a chance to be Batman? So,
yeah, exactly, yeah.
I'd have done it.
I'd like to see you in Batman and Robin.
I'd have loved
it. Just no, like, muscle mass on you at all. Just go, oh, back credit card. Oh.
It'd have been more believable. I'd have made a good Alfred.
Maybe, yeah.
Master
like, you could be Andy Serkis's. You could be his like apprentice, his buttling apprentice.
I could be Alfred's butler.
I bet that's an easy job. Like, he's always going to be making 2 sandwiches when he goes to the kitchen, isn't he? One for him, one for Bruce.
2 sandwiches. No, Dick's in Batman and Robin, and Barbara.
Oh, that's true. Well,
he's also.
Was it? Wasn't she called someone else? Because she's not Commissioner Gordon's daughter. She's Alfred's niece.
Yeah, I'm sure it's Barbara. Whatever, Barbara Pennyworth.
Really?
I'm sure they just merged.
What a pathetic attempt.
A fake character and a real character. I could be completely wrong. I haven't watched that film since I was like 9, but...
Good. Correct answer.
But no, like Moonknight, I think it's definitely got the makings of one of the best shows. And it's at least, with the exception of WandaVision and Loki, this is the show that's got me intrigued. Like the other show, I enjoyed the other ones. Like I still think Winter Falcon and Winter Soldier is the weakest of the bunch that we've had, but it was still good.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate, really, because like Hawkeye was
great,
really good. Hawkeye was really good, and WandaVision was just so much of a bigger part of the MCU than kind of maybe we thought at the time. Yeah. But it was a lot. There was so much like postulating and stuff like that with that, because it was just like every week it's like, who is going to be in this show? Like it's going to be Reed Richards, it's going to be blah blah blah, and then fucking Ralph Boner shows up and everyone's like, X-Men, oh my god.
I'm still fucking livid about
that.
I know a guy, I know someone that knows about this, and it turns out it's just some fucking rando that's massively irrelevant.
Just a random engineer or something.
Like,
cool.
Nice one.
Brilliant.
I'm glad that was a main focus.
Maybe this the Miss Marvel show. Maybe that's going to be the one that's sort of like that takes over the kind of the low-key WandaVision, kind of like visually spectacular stuff.
What do you think about the power change?
I'm not a fan. I'll be honest. I think maybe it will make more sense in the MCU as it currently is, rather than just have a big stretchy powers. Like if it's something that's based from cosmic energy or whatever.
Do you think that's because they're going to be bringing Fantastic Four in? What's the point of having two stretchies?
But then, what's the point then? Because then you've already got like the tool on Photoshop to do stretchy arms and stuff like that. We go, well, we could already do Reed Richards like that. It costs three times less.
I don't know if it like dampens the reveal. You go, it's Reed Richards, but we've already got a stretchy person.
Yeah, and she's just like, I mean, I can do other stuff as well. Like, yeah, but we want him with the grey hair and that as well, and he's a genius,
What if they did an X-Men? An X-Men thing like they did with Rogue, where when she absorbs some of Magneto's power, she gets a grey streak, and then something happens in this, and she gets a grey streak, and you go, well, that's as close to Reed Richards as we're gonna get.
Well, I reckon that it's, if anything, maybe it's that she's got this like cosmic version of her stretching and growing abilities.
Yeah.
That becomes her actual body. So instead of having like the Shang-Chi rings of whatever, like she gets imbued with that, she can do it herself, maybe. But like you say, it could be just very good forethought if they're just like, well, we're going to be, we want to be bringing in the Fantastic Four at some point. It's going to be a huge bomb that we're going to drop. And then if we've got, we've already got a Hulk, but this guy's orange and made of bricks. So that's kind of different enough to have just like another big lumbering strong guy. We've got a guy that can set himself on fire and fly around. Don't think there's anyone else that can do that. That's pretty cool. A woman that can turn invisible and create force fields and shit. No one else can do that. That's cool. I bet maybe Strange at a, but he's got like a billion other.
I was going to say he could do most of these things if he wanted to.
Also true, but we'll just skip over that. But then if you go, and then we've got this guy who can stretch out and stuff, but so can she. It's just like, is that just not having like it's the Flash, and then it's another Flash, and then it's a third Flash. CW.
Hey, he's been arrested, hasn't he? Ezra Miller.
Grant Gustin. I saw about this the other day. What's all that about?
He attacked somebody in a karaoke bar.
What? Because someone went, CW shit, all the shows that they made for DC shit.
It was actually something to do with he didn't like the song they were singing. So I read.
And that's much more reasonable, yeah.
And he did something else prior to that, and then he did that, and then he's currently behind bar. No, he paid bail and got out.
Well, hopefully that's the final nail in the Flash coffin, because goddamn, honestly, I don't know if you've seen it on Instagram, but like whenever DC posts sort of like, new season of the Flash or whatever, one of my favorite things to do is just look at the comments for like for Stargirl or Legends of Tomorrow or the Flash or Arrow or anything. It's just like, is this show still on? Question mark. Like, why are people still watching this? There'll be like 4 people who are like, I still enjoy it. But everyone else is just like, why are you still doing this?
You're my super friend.
Oh, God. Like, when you go, okay, like, you can quibble over sort of like, Falcon and Winter Soldier, maybe it's kind of the weakest, and Loki, but that's good for a different way, and Hawkeye's also very good, but that's different in its own thing. You go, okay, but all of those compared to Legends of Tomorrow, it's like, oh yeah, they're all way better. Like, yeah, but
even Iron Fist was better than the CW stuff. 100%, yeah.
Maybe if you condensed it down into like 9 episodes of like actual cool Flash stuff, maybe it wouldn't be as good. Rather than all the filler bullshit that we get from Smallville.
There's too much filler. And like Grant Gustin, I think he's done an adequate job with what he's given. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a CW show that I don't think gets the same kind of money thrown at it as the likes of like Riverdale and some of the other bigger named CW properties. Like even that, what was the other one? Black Lightning.
I remember that being all right.
It was all right, but that had you could visibly see it had a much larger budget than the Flash and stuff. And I don't think it helps that I assume the Flash has had the same budget that Arrow had, but because Arrow is based relatively more grounded, it looks better because there's not as much effects flying about. Obviously, edgy crossovers and some of the more fantastical elements, like Ra's al Ghul and stuff. But for the most part, Arrow looked decent. I'm not saying
fine.
I'm not saying the content was good, but visually
that's the thing.
Okay.
It wasn't. It just didn't have the. They just didn't have the bump behind it.
I don't think it helped.
If you condense it down to 9 episodes and you go, we'll get all this really cool stuff in, and we'll touch on Ra's al Ghul, and we'll get rid of Tommy, whatever the fuck his name is, and then he'll come back or whatever. If you can do all that in like 10 or 13 episodes or something, that's way more impactful than like 24, which is just like, oh god, please just kill me now.
Because
Lois and Clark, that is the only one of all of them that I'm like, that one looks like it could be all right. It looks fairly decent, and it's the only one I haven't even started watching yet.
I'm not even gonna attempt it. I don't like him particularly much as Superman.
I disagree. I think he looked pretty solid. I think he looked all right, and his Superman looked fine, and he seemed to be sort of like quite, because we got kind of used to the sort of Henry Cavill, just sort of like, oh my god, being Superman is the worst. I hate being Superman. Everyone wants me to do things and blow shit up, and oh god, doomsday. Oh god, awful. Whereas this guy, it's just like I wakes up in the morning, it's like, I can't believe it, I'm Superman again. This is the best.
I think it's like my biggest criticism of him was, without watching Supergirl, I think I watched maybe 2 episodes of Supergirl before I gave up. But the small bits I've seen of him, do you know why I don't like this Superman? He's got a smarmy face. And
I disagree. I don't think he's smarmy.
No. I don't think he is. It's just the look he's got. Like, he doesn't look like this is your everyman. This is your perfect specimen of this isn't your Henry Cavill, Christopher Reeves. Even Brendan Routh didn't look. It's just, I don't know what it is. He's just got a smug face, and so he should. He's a delicious man. But like, do you know what I mean? Though
I don't really. And I think like the way that Lois and Clark is filmed. At least I'm going purely off trailers on this. By the way,
because obviously I haven't seen it.
Yeah, but I think that the way that it's shot and the tones and that it's being. The way that it's like cinematography, like that's being used for it, I forgot that was barely a sentence.
I see where you're going. It's filmed differently to the other CW shows.
Yeah, and it looks like it's filmed like with people who've got real talent, and they're not just trying to force it out on a budget as quick as possible. Or they go, we've got a formula and that works. Just do everything like that, and then just interchange whoever the main character
definitely
is.
Changes the show, and like I mean,
think that.
Go on. No, go on. You think?
Cut me off, mate. Just cut me off.
I was agreeing with you.
Do you know what you could do? You go,
okay.
Yeah, I agree. That's fine. I forgot my point now.
Do you think like the way it's been filmed, and it seems like it's been done with people that actually?
I think it's professional. Well, it's like, it looks like it's way more professional than any of the other CW stuff is, and that's why I'm just sort of like, oh, maybe this is the one that sort of like, kind of will make me forgive some of the other travesties that have happened in the past. This doesn't necessarily need to be connected to all of it, but if this sort of Superman story it's just like, the adventures of Lois and Clark that we got, back in the day and all that, but it's just a way better version of all of that. I can live with that. That's totally fine.
What kind of villains do you reckon you're going to get?
With it. Sorry?
What kind of villains do you reckon you're going to... Because the problem with like the adventures of Lois and Clark was, is another bank robber. Gives a shit.
Yeah. But that's also like 90s budgets associated to superheroes as well. This isn't when like, oh, these are like billion dollar properties now.
Yeah, but this is where they go, probably shouldn't do Superman then. Let's do someone a bit more grounded.
Well, it's always like, it's Superman, but it's just sort of like, he's clearly just doing that, and they just... blowing a bit of wind at him.
Dean Cain was a good-looking Superman.
He's a good-looking fella, isn't he, Dean Cain? Yeah.
Probably not so much anymore.
I thought they brought him back. Isn't he like Park Kent or something like that in Lois and Clark?
I honestly couldn't tell you. I know they brought back... did he come back for one of the Legends things? I know
Tom Welling
did.
I think. I would be very surprised if he didn't. I'd have been personally offended if I was him, if they hadn't have done, unless they were just sort of like, well, you're a big racist now, so no, you're not.
Yeah, I mean, we're not saying that he is.
no, it's just that that's the reason. Like,
if he's done specific reason.
Yeah. But I would have thought so. I haven't even got round to watching that yet. Because like that should be like the highlight of all of these things. It's all of these things coming together.
Yeah, but
and I still cannot be arsed.
But you're looking at it like Endgame, and here's all of the CW people coming together.
I think it's going to be like Endgame.
No,
but it's just sort of like
that's what they bill it up as, though, isn't it?
All the budget is going to be, it's going to be this. There's going to be an interesting story. There's going to be something that justifies all of this. Just leaks. All of this coming together, and I just need to get around to it at some point or another.
I think it does help.
There's definitely got other priorities. Things like Peacemaker. That's a decent profit I'd rather watch.
Fantastic. It's
Titans,
so good.
Harley Quinn. Like those.
Have you not watched the new season of Titans?
Honestly, mate, I think I've got like 2 or 3 left. I don't know what happened, but I'm fairly sure I haven't finished it.
Excellent season.
Just things, they come in and just take my fucking breath away.
I've got 2 episodes of Peacemaker left. Gave it a little bit of a break just to watch them all. I'd watched the first 4 and then just stopped until they were all out so I could watch them all like in one go kind of thing. But no, there's I don't know, there's just something with Peacemaker that's very, you can tell James Gunn's made it 100%. Like it's very polished, and it's music's great, comedy's good, the action's real good, chemistry with the characters is good, and for a character that I didn't particularly like in Suicide Squad, I've warmed around to him. I like him, and I like John Cena more for it. But yeah, like when you could watch The Flash, or you could watch Titans and Peacemaker, and it's a no-go. Like it's no contest. And CW can do, like with you saying about the visual, the cinematography of Superman and Lois. There's, again, I've used it as an example before, and I'm not saying it's a show to run out and watch, but like Riverdale is filmed far better than the likes of Arrow and Flash, and again, that's just in a town that's filmed in like Ontario or wherever it is, in somewhere in Canada. But visually, it's filmed with almost like a cinema-like feel to it. And I think if you, like, and I'm not saying that. I mean, I like Riverdale, but I'm not saying go and watch it purely because it looks amazing. But if that was shot the same as Arrow or The Flash, I don't think as many people would watch it, because it's just another CW show that looks exactly the same as the other one, but with different people in it. And there was a spin-off for Riverdale for Josie and something, and that was filmed very similar to The Flash, so you could tell it was done. But basically, here's all your good people, and then here's some people just like, you guys go film this. They've gone out with the phones and just filmed it.
C teams.
Yeah. And you can definitely see the difference between the 2 shows. And even, did you watch Sabrina?
I watched the first season of Sabrina, and I can't remember exactly what it was. Like, I couldn't place the time period that it was set in, which really frustrated me the whole way through. Because it seemed like it was in the 40s, but they all had laptops and stuff, and I was like, I don't understand.
That's a common thing.
And then there was this, but then there was this whole thing about like, oh, Sabrina, don't do like dark magic or something like that to bring the boy back to life. That's just the worst thing ever. And she's like, well, I'm 16 and I don't care anymore, so I'm going to go and do and it's just like, you mental fucking dickhead, no wonder it all went tits up for you. So I didn't go back and watch the second season of that, because I was just like, this is far too dramatic, there's not enough laughs. Where's the talking cat? None of that.
Yeah, it's a cousin in this. I only watched season 1, and
I've only watched the first one. I was just like, I'm not in a rush to get back to this.
Like I say, I like Riverdale, and the fact that these are filmed, these are like the CW's Flash and Arrow. Like there is references to each of the towns and stuff, but I don't know, it just didn't get me. I will get around to it. It was fine. It's still better than some shows I've watched. It was better than Flash, but it's not. When you're looking at these kind of properties, like your big, I don't know if Archie Comics is as big these days as it used to be, but if you could watch a comic book TV show, it needs to be Peacemaker.
Yeah, there's definitely like a bar that's been set by quite a few of these. Like Disney seems to be upping their own bar.
I honestly think Peacemaker's up there with your Disney Plus shows.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I think that they're different in their own way, though. And I like the fact that they're like, so, you know, the Harley Quinn, I need to get around because I think there's like 2 more seasons of that that's come out.
So funny.
That I haven't got around to yet, but that's really good. Titans I've really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Doom Patrol, I haven't heard fucking sight or since the first season ended.
I don't think it helped.
I know it's on the way. It just seems to be taking forever.
Well,
and then they go Constantine. Great first season.
That's CW though.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I mean. I was just like, okay, so the one thing that differs from the formula, a season, they go, nah, bin it.
Yeah, cancelled.
Swamp Thing,
yeah.
Incredible. After the first episode airs, now you're done.
Yeah.
Bin it.
6 episodes.
Mental. Literally one of the best things they've done, and they screwed it off.
By far.
But, you know, season 15 of The Flash, sure, we'll give you another one of those. Don't worry about it. Ridiculous.
It's...
Anyway, sorry, can we not talk about this bullshit DC stuff? We're talking about good Disney stuff.
Moonknight.
You know, Disney, the company that is, you know, it's the underdog and it's not a global conglomerate sucking everything up in its path. But to be fair, if it shits out good content, I'm all right paying for that Disney Plus membership.
You've got a lot of things coming up, and you've got a lot of things to be thankful for because of Disney. And no matter what anyone says, I'm happy, Walt. Thank you very much.
This podcast brought to you by Walt Disney Productions.
I fuck you.
Another shell. Yeah.
Moonknight is just excellent. We've got another one. We've got 2 days to wait. Next episode.
Every Wednesday, and then we've got Obi-Wan. It's going to be out in May, so it's like in about 4 or 5 weeks, I think, for Obi-Wan to come out.
Push back 2 days.
Look, Callum, I've got Star Trek Picard, great second season that's going on so far. Strange New Worlds, which debuts in May as well, I think. So, and that looks pretty good as well. So I think there's going to be quite a few shows that I can watch week on week, which I haven't had that chance for a while, to be honest.
Stranger Things.
And Stranger Things, yeah, exactly. So there's some good
5 episodes content. Of that in May. Got loads of stuff. Where else is some good content, Dan? Podcastversusplay.com.
I don't believe you.
I mean,
couldn't possibly be any good content on there.
There is a wealth of great content, including more podcasts, more spoilercasts, let's plays, game shows, animations, reviews, plenty of things, Dan. And do you know what's going to be coming up there this week?
I don't know.
New things that we're going to discuss straight after this.
No way. Okay, well that's handy.
So if you want to see more of that, you're going to have to check it out and just take our word for it, because we're not lying. But now, have you got anything else you want to tag on to the end of this, or do you want to wrap it up?
Well, I went camping over the weekend with friend of the show, Rick. Had a great old time in the great outdoors. I nearly did almost a little bit die of cold because it was fucking freezing. It
was cold this weekend.
It was only like -1. It wasn't like -60 or something where, you know, I genuinely could have died. But it was a bit nippy, and it kept waking me up, and I was a bit sort of like, ugh, in the morning. But it was genuinely so much fun, and I can't wait to go back out and do it again. But, Cal, there's something I watched an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and I knew I was going to find a way to segue this in, and I've done it so cleverly you didn't even notice.
This is why I tried to wrap it up. I knew it was coming.
And I need to get someone else's opinion on this, because I had to message a mate of mine who's the only other person I know who's actually watched DS9 in its sort of like its entirety, and just be like, what the fuck?
Is this the one with Cisco?
I mean, most of them got Cisco in, mate. He's the series, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you meant like the episode. I was like, well, fuck, narrow it down.
No, yeah, the season is Cisco.
Yes.
See, I know something.
Yes. But there's been some absolute banging episodes. There's you know, all these like, you know, talking about like union rights and civil rights, and you know, I sent you that screenshot of when I was watching, and they dropped the N-word in an episode. Yeah. So, you know, really kind of like, wow, you know, hitting some really big, you know, kind of important issues. And then the episode I watched today, I'm at lunch, because this is what I'm doing at lunch at work. I'm just sort of like, you know, watching one a day. And so there's Chief. I know this won't mean anything to you, but to all my boys out there and girls out there who know what I'm on about,
nerds.
All these names will make sense to them. So there's Chief O'Brien and there's Keiko O'Brien, husband and wife, right?
I know who O'Brien is. I don't know who his wife is, though.
No, she only pops up very briefly in Next Generation, but she's in DS9 a lot more. But Irish guy, curly hair,
Yeah.
transporter chief, yeah. So he's basically doing the same kind of job, but on the station, right? But he's got his family that lives with him. So there's his wife and his daughter, and now their new son. And they go to a planet for like a holiday. And in the planet, I love that it's just sort of like so wavy-handed, but they're just like she like goes into a cave and then falls through a time portal, and they're just sort of like, oh, it's just an ancient time portal that we just found here. And I was like, what? It's just a thing that just goes back in time, and everyone's sort of like, oh, see, it's just like one of those bloody time portals, you know.
You know what they're like.
And it's like, yeah, sure. So she falls through this thing, and she goes. This kid's only 8, by the way. So she falls through this thing, and she goes back in time 300 years, and like doing research on the planet and stuff. They knew that 300 years ago the planet was deserted. There was no one there.
Yeah.
So she was 8 years old, and she was on a planet that no one else was on. But they were just like, oh, it's fine because we'll figure out how to do it, and we'll just pluck her straight back out like a few minutes later from when she arrived. So she'll be fine. That's how time travel works.
Clearly.
But they fucked it up, and she was there for 10 years on her own. And then they pulled her back, and she was 18, and she couldn't talk anymore. Like she'd lost the ability to speak, and she was very sort of feral and caveman-esque because, you know, she's just been surviving on her own, literally on her own. So they take her back to the station. They're trying to like rehabilitate her and trying to get her talking and recognize who she is and where she's from and that kind of stuff, and like trying to jog her memory. And then she, like they've got her in like the holodeck, you know, where they can recreate this planet, like with all the grass, the trees and stuff like that, which she's used to, because the station, she's just sort of like, oh, what the fuck? And she goes a bit mad when they turn it off. And then she stabs someone, like, because she's just sort of like, she can't understand what's going on. She's trying to get out, and someone's trying to hold her back and ends up stabbing him. And it's just some random alien dude. And he presses charges, and they say, okay, well, we've got to take her, and we've got to take her to a facility where she can be like rehabilitated and like, not like we'll just pop her in prison because like, she couldn't deal with that. But it's like, you know, we'll put her with people who can try and get her back from what she was. And and her parents, like the O'Briens, they're like, yeah, we don't want to, you know, we want her to stay here with us. And they're just like, well, you know, she can't, she's a liability, you know, she's dangerous or whatever. So what they do is they say, right, okay, so basically we're not going to let her go to this, call it prison for the meantime. We don't want to let her go to this prison. We want her to stay with us, or she needs to be out of the way. She needs to be safe. So what we'll do is we'll steal a ship, like a little runabout, a little transport ship. We'll go back to the planet that she, you know, kind of fell through this time thing by mistake. We'll turn the time portal back on, and we'll send her back through so she'll be safe in the past. And I was like, sorry, so your 18-year-old daughter, you're going to send back in time 300 years to a planet that's completely isolated. There is literally no other living person on a planet, and your plan is to just send her back there so she's safe. Are you mental? Like, what if she breaks her leg?
What if anything happens?
What if anything happens?
What if
she falls down a hill and gets stuck and she starves to death in the past on her own? That's what you want to do. And they, as they're getting onto the ship, like security stops them, and I was like, oh, thank God. Like, clearly, like someone in the writing room was like, oh, this isn't a good idea. We better stop this before they go ahead with it. And then like the chief of security comes along and he's like, well, yeah, all right, I get it, and lets them on the ship. I was like, what? How is anyone okay with this? So they get there, they turn it on, and they send her through the portal. But then when she gets there, it's like 2 or 3 minutes after the little girl arrived originally anyway.
Right.
So she sends the little girl back through, and she just disappears because obviously she doesn't exist because of time shit, whatever. So I was like, that is so lucky, because they didn't know that was going to happen. No, they were just about to blow it up, so no one could go back through and get her. Mental. And I was just like, this is supposed to be from the people who are just sort of like, you know, they're logical and rational, and they, you know, they want to take care of people, and they don't want anyone to come to harm. But if you come after their children after they've turned feral,
we'll send them away.
Send them back. an entire planet on their own and will never ever be able to see them again.
That's so stupid.
I couldn't believe it. I was just like, who wrote this episode? Like, this is someone in the writer's room who's clearly sick of their kids. They've been whinging on all day long. And they're like, oh, I'd love to send you back in time
300
and dump you on the
years
planet.
on your own.
On your own. Like, not even just sort of like in a town on your own. An entire planet. You could go anywhere on that planet and you would never ever see another person. Mental. I couldn't believe that they even considered it as an option. It genuinely blew my mind.
We had this I forgot what we were actually talking. It was about Star Trek and Star Wars. It was a couple of weeks ago. But it was one of the things that Star Trek's always like. Star Wars is there's lots of big space battles and you got your lightsabers, you got your force powers and weird creatures and this that, and the other. Star Trek was it's all about, like, say, logic and reason and stuff like that. And with the exception of a few, I mean, I remember an episode of Next Generation where Q sends them to Sherwood Forest and he's dressed up like
a few sort of
Robin Hood and stuff. Yeah, and like, but they're just more tongue-in, like, it's a little bit wacky. It's a bit of a change of pace from the seriousness that they've had
so
up to
like,
now.
well, we can't have 24 episodes of trade negotiation and, you know, the threat of potential war and espionage and all that sort of stuff. Every now and then, oh no, the holodeck's gone awry and Moriarty's taken over the ship.
But there's an explanation for those things. So even these silly daft ones, it's Q. Then, you know, he could do whatever he was. But hearing that, there doesn't seem to be any. The only logic there is the kid's safe from the other people. Not from everything else, though.
But this isn't like. Oh, and I think that just like when they're sort of sending her back, they're just like, oh, you know, here's like a doll that she was sort of like not trying to get her out of this sort of like this child mentality that she's still got. You know, where she's sort of like regressed to like a kind of almost caveman, animalistic sort of state. Like, so, here's your doll, here's some food, here's a knife. What, she's gonna send out hunting as well? Like, oh
she's
my
gonna have
god.
to, isn't she?
Keiko, the fuck are you playing at?
Is your Tamagotchi? Kid.
But not even like, oh, here's like a medical kit and here's how to use it, because she wouldn't be able to physically understand how to use it. It's not like it's like, oh, we could just pop back every other week and see her. Yeah. They were going to send her back and then blow it up. And like, if it got to the point where at the end, and the captain had sat him down and was just like, what were you thinking? And they were just like, oh, it just seemed like the best course of action or whatever. So it's either rehabilitation or dump her in the past and never see her again. I couldn't believe it, mate. Honestly, I was just like, they've been pushing some boundaries in this show, and in some really interesting and good ways.
Wasn't Deep Space Nine one of the least well received of the?
And I get why, because the first 3 or 4, like usually like after the first season or 2 is kind of when one of these shows sort of picks up and you kind of get on board with it. But for me, at least, for DS9, it took at least until the 4th season. I was just like, okay, now they found their footing. Now they're getting some speed up, you know. But this is the only one where I was just like, what the hell were you smoking when you wrote this? Like, that's like, I'm not a parent and I have no inclination to be, but I cannot think of any parent who's like, if it was just like, oh, they're going to be assimilated by the Borg, or you dump them back in time and maybe they'll have a better chance and they don't get turned into a thing. That's
one. There's two outcomes there. One, they're going to get assimilated by the Borg. That's just what's going to happen. Or two, it's 50-50. They'll survive in other things. So
that's a lesser of two evils.
Yeah, but
and that I get. But it was just sort of like, oh, you know, should just be taken care of by professionals
or murder. Like,
mental.
Doesn't seem too logical, Dan.
Because it doesn't seem like it's sort of like they didn't think of like, oh, what happens in like 10 years' time when she's, you know, she can't understand like any kind of like interaction. What if she's horny? Like, mental. Like, she wouldn't understand how to like build a house or a farm and take care of herself. She'd just be a complete scavenger for the rest of her life, presumably until she hurts herself and then starves to death. Insane.
Well, that's what happened with a lot of when they had like many. I'm assuming it still happens these days as well, but in like Borneo and stuff, when you'd have like the kids that ran away and they lived in the jungles and stuff. And I remember watching a documentary where it wasn't like rehabilitation, but they basically come across a kid who had he had no social skills whatsoever, and he survived for many years, but he'd injured his leg. And it was a point where he was getting gangrene and everything else, and he did.
Yeah, of course it will. Yeah,
he eventually died, but he had managed to survive up to that point, and it was possibly only because of, I think he had some nourishment problem as well, but it was basically the injury sustained is what killed him, because obviously it had gone on for so long. It got infection. I imagine that would lead to sepsis and everything else. But in that situation, like an animal will only know so much. Like a dog will lick its wounds and stuff and try and
you won't find a plant that's got medicinal properties and rub it on it.
It's not like Splinter from the Turtles, but
yeah.
But I imagine somebody of that degree of mental capability would know even less than a dog. It's just natural for a dog. No,
because by the end of it, she's starting to talk, and she's like, "Oh, mommy, daddy." It's she was getting back there, and I was like, "Okay, well, this is only a week or so. Give her a couple of months, she'll probably be fine." But no, send her back into the past, everyone.
Maybe it was literally just a case of they just didn't want her around. Come on, Christmas is coming up, and we can't get that Buzz Lightyear.
I don't know, man. It was so weird. I just had to talk to someone about it because I couldn't believe it. Because this is honestly some of the serious issues they've been talking, like racism and stuff like this in this whole season. It's been incredible. And then they just dropped this one out of nowhere.
I will say, of all of the Star Trek episodes you talked to me about, this is the one that I'm probably more likely to watch.
Maybe so, but I mean, all I can think of is just if I talked to you about this and said, if you're, if Logan aged 10 years on a cave planet somewhere and he was fine and he managed to survive there somehow, and presumably there weren't any natural predators or whatever, so he'd be all right. So either you turn him back into a normal person, but maybe they're still a bit behind and they don't really quite get it, and you'd have to sort of, maybe not like a disability or like a learning disability, where you'd have to kind of be on top of everything they do all the time forever. But maybe it'd just be struggle to adapt to things and stuff like that, or you put him in a hole and never see him again. Which option do you go for?
What day are you asking?
Well, he's 8 now-ish, isn't he?
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is about the same age as this kid would be.
Of course I choose the other one.
I just don't get it, man. I'd love to, if anyone listening to this has seen this, because there's when I watched the episode when they were talking about Ben Sisko was it was all set in the 40s. And him and all the crew, they didn't have any prosthetics or anything like that on, so they were all just normal humans, and they worked in a science fiction writing magazine sort of thing.
Yeah.
But because Ben Sisko is black, they were yeah, well, we can't publish a story about a black guy that's doing cool space stuff or whatever because he's a black guy. And everyone in the office is well, that seems like a bullshit, and I know and I agree, but what are you going to do? That's the sort of the world that we live in, kind of thing. And it was so kind of poignant and stuff like that. I had to Google that episode, and it is rated one of the best of the show, and you can kind of get the sense of it. It's wow, that was really impactful. This one though, I want to Google it and just be is this one of the worst ones they've made? Because
I suppose
the logic
especially if you're following stuff like that as well.
Don't understand it. It just seems so far departed from the reason and the rationality of everyone.
Maybe
and, it's always the bigger
it was
impact
to highlight the lengths you'd go to as a parent to protect your kid, but it doesn't seem.
And you'd go with them.
Yeah, but not even that. What danger was they in going into rehabilitation?
Well, this is it. I think it would just be the case of not being able to see them. But if that was so important, I'd be well, we'll grab the other kid that's on the station. We'll all go back 300 years. We'll just all live out together on a planet that's, as far as we can tell, archaeologically, no issues have happened there.
They'd only not be able to see them until they were better. Because then they got no reason not to.
That would be my thinking. I mean, unless I missed a key element of this where she was going to get rehabilitated, then shot, then...
Well, we did it. We proved we can do it. Kill it. Bring in the next one.
It took me so off guard. I'd love, if anyone's got any thoughts on this episode, if you know the one I'm on about, then head over to the website and comment on the wall and give me your thoughts on it. Because if I've missed something here that I'm not translating particularly well, then I need to know, because this episode has blown all the other good stuff out of the water, man. It's so weird.
And not in a good way.
Right, good way. I'm going to Google it right now. I can't remember what the episode's called, but fuck my life. Do an outro and I'm going to have a look at this.
By the time we do the next podcast, Dan, I have a feeling we will have both have watched Morbius. So
God.
we've got that to look forward to.
I'm not looking forward to it.
I've heard some real stinky things about it, and when somebody says Venom 2 is like Endgame levels of better, then you know you're onto a bad thing. Also, Sonic the Hedgehog is out this week. No,
I'm actually quite
4 days time. I watched the first one again yesterday, just to get into the mood. And Logan sat through the whole film, so I may take him to the cinema to see this one. This one's like 2 hours long, though. The new one.
Really?
Yeah, that seems like
Seems like it's a bit too much, to be fair.
It does to me, but it's also potentially Jim Carrey's last movie. Ever, yeah.
Oh, is that the one you want to go out on?
Apparently, I've read a couple of spoiler-free reviews, and they said this is the most Jim Carrey performance. So
he's gone all out, balls out, and then he's like, okay, I'm done being silly now.
It's pretty much what most reviews said is like, if this is his last one, it's a real good one to go out.
It's a good one to go. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he was 100% the best part of the first one
by far. I will say though, upon watching it yesterday was my third time watching it. Didn't like it the first time. I liked it more the second time, and I enjoyed it again yesterday. But I will say, the Sonic, fucking hell, I forgot the character's name. Donut Lord, the cop.
Oh, James Marston's.
Yeah, I can't remember the character's name, but their dynamic I liked a lot more this time round.
Right, okay, yeah.
I don't know whether it's just because I was expecting less because I'd already seen it prior, but I liked them. I still like. I think Sonic's good.
Well, it's on Netflix,
casting.
isn't it?
That's all. I watched it on yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll watch it again before I get a chance to see 2, I reckon. But yeah, I'd like to come back and talk about that some more.
Yeah.
But in terms of reception, according to Wikipedia for this episode, which is called Times Orphan, just for your own records, someone of Tor.com, Keith DeCandido, rated the episode 4 out of 10. I agree. A 2015 binge watching guide for Star Trek Deep Space Nine by Wired recommended skipping this episode. I also agree.
Well, that does not sound like something I'm going to.
I could sit here for another hour and talk about this episode and how it made me feel.
Well, definitely not. So, if you want
I want to do a side by side viewing with you and just be like,
Garrick, we can get away with that.
Every decision. I'm like, did you see that? What do you think of that?
Are you prepared to do that this week, and we'll watch it together and see if we're allowed to upload it?
I feel like I've ruined it now. Like, if I'd have said, like, I've got the weirdest, stupidest, most awful
that would have been a bad
DS9.
thing if you hadn't said what's happening.
Because you could have gone, I think I probably would have done the same thing, actually. Taking into account all this extra stuff.
Literally, just like the exact opposite of what you want me to say.
Exploded. Yeah. But that's fine.
Yeah, if you want to check out more stuff, you can go to podcastversusplayer.com, where we've got more reviews, let's plays, podcasts, spoiler casts, animations. There's just loads of things on there. It's had a little bit of a revamp as well, so feel free to check it out, and head to podcastversusplayer.com/the wall. Leave us some comments and some good things. What did you like? Did you like this episode of podcast? Did you like that episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, with the one with Cisco and the one with the orphan machine, whatever the fuck it was called? That just sounds like it murders people's parents. roll up.
The Batman machine.
But on that note, as we are just over an hour long, Dan, not a bad one. But yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.